by all members in any meeting of a public body. This meeting of the Great Barrington Select Board will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and or parties with a right and a requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the town's website. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted. Every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access proceedings in real time via technological means. Pursuant to MGL 7C 30A, Section 20F, after notifying the chair of a public body, any person may make a video or audio recording of an open session of a meeting of a public body, may transmit the meeting through any medium. Beginning of the meeting, the chair shall inform other attendees of any such recordings. This meeting is being recorded by the town, by CTSB, by the Berkshire Eagle, Berkshire Edge, and other members of the public. Any member of the public wishing to speak at the meeting must receive permission of the chair. The listing of agenda items are those reasonably anticipated by the chair, which may be discussed at the meeting. Not all items listed may in fact be discussed, and other items not listed may be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by law. First thing we have is, I will just, because Garfield's not here, I will just say that right now, Ed Abrams, Lee Davis, Eric Gabriel, and myself, Steve Bannon, are here. We are expecting Garfield. A motion to convene as sewer commissioners, please.
I'd make a motion to convene as sewer commissioners.
Second.
It's all roll call, all votes are roll call. So Eric?
Aye.
Ed?
Yes.
Lee?
Aye.
And I. Mark, did you have something you want to add to it?
To the abatements?
Yes, please.
Yeah, I would just like to request that the abatement request for 23 Giddings Street be conditioned upon further review from Public Works staff. We need a little more information before we can recommend this be approved.
Mark, could you repeat that address? Which one was that?
23 Giddings Street. It should be down near the bottom of the list.
So do I have a motion?
I have a motion to accept the sewer abatements with conditions on 23 Giddings Street as recommended by the town manager.
Second.
So any discussion? Seeing no discussion.
I got a question. So
Yeah, go ahead, please.
these abatements here, these are people currently asking this year moving forwards sewer bill, or is this coming sewer bill?
Now this is from January 1st through June 30th,
Of 2022,
2021.
2020. Okay. Sounds good. So, yes. All right.
Okay. Roll call vote. Eric?
Aye.
Ed?
Yes.
Lee?
Aye.
And I, it's unanimous. Motion to reconvene as select board, please.
I make a motion to reconvene as select board.
Second.
Eric?
Aye.
Ed?
Yes.
Lee?
Aye.
And I, it's unanimous. We have 5 minutes, 5 sets of minutes in our packet. Do I have a motion to approve?
I make a
Steven,
motion to, oh,
Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. Go ahead.
March and April, I was not involved with the select board at the March and April 2021. So
Okay. Let's do those two first, please.
sure. I make a motion to approve the minutes of March 22nd, 2021 and April 26th, 2021.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Eric is recusing himself. So Ed,
Yes.
Lee,
Aye.
and I, 3 with 1 recused. Next motion, please.
I make a motion to approve the minutes of November 1st, November 29th and of 2021 and January 10th of 2022.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Eric,
aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
and I, it's unanimous. Select Board's announcements or statements. Eric,
Nothing at this time. Thank you.
Ed,
Nothing.
Lee?
Just to let everyone know, the meeting of the Community Preservation Committee will be held tomorrow at 5 p.m. to continue our discussions of the Step 2 applications.
Thank you. Town Manager's report.
Okay, thanks, Steve. And I just wanted to mention Garfield should be joining us momentarily. He just emailed looking for a copy of the link. So, Houstonic Waterworks, I'd like to start there this evening. And I mentioned last week during our Monday meeting that I would provide an update on the haloacidic acid concern for village water users after our health department had an opportunity to connect with DEP and specifically the drinking water program there. So this evening I asked Rebecca Jerzik, our health agent, to join us and provide an update. So I'm going to look for her and go ahead and promote her now. Okay, Rebecca, you're good to go.
Hey, everybody. So as Mark said, I'm here to just share a little bit of information about what we know so far about the violation Houstonic Waterworks notified its customers about. And yes, I did have to call DEP to find out what haloacidic acid 5 is. But essentially, it is a chlorine byproduct, and it forms when chlorine binds to organic materials found in the raw water source. So in a sense, the presence of, I'm just going to call it HAA5, that's the abbreviation that DEP uses, but it's haloacidic acid 5. So in a sense, when the presence of HAA5 is evidence that chlorine is doing what it's intended to do by binding to the organic materials in order to sterilize any bacteria that might be pathogenic in the water. And surface water sources like Round Pond, as opposed to groundwater sources, typically have more organic materials and therefore need more chlorine to ensure consumer safety. So I just want to spend 2 minutes giving my interpretation of DEP's violation, or how they're categorizing it as a violation, because I found it confusing. So I imagine customers might have found it confusing too. So the DEP, the Department of Environmental Protection safety standard, is called a maximum contaminant level. So you'll see it noted on their report as MCL. So the MCL is determined for this contaminant, HAA5. This is determined by an average of the last 4 water samples. And DEP requires Houstonic Waterworks to submit samples quarterly. So the average is from a full year of samples prior. And the maximum contaminant level for HAA5 is 60 parts per billion. So it's a violation if at any point the average of the last 4 samples is over 60 parts per billion. So going into the weeds a little bit here, a recent sample can individually be over 60 parts per billion, but it's not necessarily a violation if the previous 3 samples taken were relatively low to bring that average down. So the last sample taken, I think in September or October, was high enough to trigger that average being over 60 parts per billion. And DEP hasn't issued a formal notice of non-compliance to Houstonic Waterworks yet, but they've assured me that when they do, the health department and the town manager's office will be copied on that notice. But when I spoke to them last week, they were transparent enough to send the language to me that they will probably use on their notice of non-compliance. So I'm just going to read it to you. What potential action requirements may be for Housatonic Waterworks. So number one, immediate actions taken to reduce the level of the contaminant identified at the location and to provide a memo documenting these actions. So actually DEP excuse me, sent a letter to Housatonic Works today, giving them until March 9th to submit an operation evaluation form. And then number two is within 180 days of the maximum contaminant level exceedance or enforcement issued by DEP, the public water supply, Housatonic Waterworks, submits a report by a Massachusetts a registered professional engineer to provide recommendations for preventing future violations. So essentially within 6 months, Housatonic Waterworks will need to submit an engineered plan on how they plan to prevent this violation in the future. I guess, and I just want to say again that because this is an average, I do expect this to be a violation that Housatonic Waterworks will have to address, or it'll come up at least for the next 6 months, since the last sample was pretty high. Did that make it more confusing? I hope that was helpful.
It was helpful.
Okay, good.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
I know you said the last sample was pretty high. Do we know? In the paper it said the average was 106, if I'm not mistaken. But I was wondering if we knew what the numbers were on the previous on all four of the samples that triggered this.
Yes.
Is that information we
If
have?
you just give me 2 minutes, I can find it in my email. DEP sent me the last 2 years worth of samples. I can send them to you,
That would be great.
but I know that the last two, the last one was 65 parts per billion. And then the one in August was 103 parts per billion. But I do have all 8 samples for 2021 and then 2020.
Rebecca, can you just post that also on the website, just so everyone?
Sure. And one thing that I thought was helpful that DEP clarified was that this sample, whereas for their other water sampling, they have to take different samples along the distribution lines. For this one contaminant or this one substance that they're testing for is taken from only one location in Housatonic.
Do we know where that location is?
It's 10 Depot Street.
Lee?
Yeah, thank you very much. This is really, really helpful, Rebecca. So it's nice to know that they have a plan moving forward, that they'll be addressing this. My question is about the, I believe it's like a pilot study studying the magnesium levels. And I just want to know how this could quite affect that, or does this have any relation to that that initiative that they're currently undertaking?
I don't know if they'll be able to just merge the two engineered plans, but from my conversation with Deirdre Doherty, it's going to be in addition to so 2 separate plans.
Great, thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you, Rebecca.
So moving on, thank you, Rebecca. Moving on, update from the W.E.B. Du Bois Legacy Committee. Gwendolyn Van Sant is here this evening to provide you an update from the committee. So I'm going to promote her.
Hello.
Hey, go ahead.
Hi. So thanks. I think a few members of the committee are here, but I will tell you all what we have planned for Du Bois Day on behalf of the town. So thank you all again for approving Du Bois Day as a town holiday. The theme that the committee's come up with is Sacred Journey of Dr. W.B. Du Bois, Native Son to Global Scholar. It's our 5th annual since we started at the 150th birthday anniversary. The Mahawi Theater has come in as a really strong partner again, and due to COVID constraints, we're having a 3-part town-sponsored program on the 21st, the 22nd, and the 23rd that will all be pre-recorded and edited in collaboration with the Mahawi, and they'll premiere at 5:30. So I'll just walk through each of those events. On Monday, we hope to have a welcome by Steve and your colleagues here from the select board. And then the work and history of the Legacy Committee, and then some local clergy that will be doing a blessing, and then opening talks for real Du Bois advocates in our community. So Dr. Kendra Fields will be speaking on behalf of the Clinton Church Restoration. President Dennis Powell will be speaking on behalf of the NAACP. I'll be speaking on behalf of my other community role at Bridge, and AJ Enchill will be speaking on the Berkshire Black Economic Council. So those 4 will be sort of opening up the festival. And then I'm really excited to announce that our keynote is Dr. George T. French Jr., and he's the Clark Atlanta University president. So that's a real honor that he's going to be our keynote. So that's the first broadcast. And then the second broadcast is really highlighting the theme Sacred Journeys. So we'll have the sorrow songs, those spiritual songs, again, premiering from Wanda Houston and Dr. Marianelle Morgan. They'll do an edited down version of the program they've done in the past. Some of our local voices of people born and raised in the African-American community of Great Barrington will speak or sing or do spoken word. So we have Guillermo Delano Burrows, and we have Leah Reed, and then we'll have other youth voices from the Du Bois Middle School, where Street Youth Project's been invited, Bridge, and again, Williams College, we hope. So that's that. And then the third day, which is Du Bois Day, February 23rd, we'll again want a town introduction. Some of the keynote highlights will be brought forward. And then Dr. Emily Williams on the committee has curated a panel that has Dr. Barbara Combs from Clark Atlanta University, Dr. Melvin Ramig from Morehouse College, and Dr. Alex Pierre of Spelman College. And those people will be on a panel moderated by Dr. Williams. That will be actually, if you can be live on Zoom, it's a live recording on February 2nd that then will be broadcast into a program on the 23rd. So we hope you all can join that discussion. It'll be really enriching. And then the Du Bois Award will be announced. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to say who that is now, so I'll email you guys, but I don't know if I'm supposed to announce it or not. I didn't check. So so there's a Du Bois Award also being given. And then in the evening, we will have a 4th video with a sort of special guests and family members of the Du Bois descendants there for a program at the Mahawi. It'll be limited capacity again because of COVID. And that's related to other community events that are falling under the town's Legacy Festival, like we've done in other years, but hosted by community partners. So Jacob's Pillow has an African drumming program happening, and that's part of the 10 by 10 festival that's happening further north in the county, but also bringing a piece of that into the Legacy Festival. And then another piece that's extremely important for you all to know that the town really should feel proud of is that Dr. Du Bois's only grandchild, Yolande Du Bois Williams Irving, passed away in November. And although that was very sad, what the good news is that she decided that she wanted to come back home and be buried along at the Du Bois gravesite. And that wasn't her plan a few years ago, but she was really honored by the work that Great Barrington had done to lift up Du Bois's legacy. So she made that decision. So Jeff Peck, her son, reached out to ask me to help organize the memorial service. And so I've been working on that with the family and her colleagues from Xavier University and our local folks like Rich Atwood and and the town staff and Finnerty and Stevens to get ready to do a memorial service at that will be at both First Congregational Church and obviously at the gravesite. What I want you all to know is that NAACP presidents from a few chapters are coming. We have the presiding ministers coming from NAACP Houston. He also has a church congregation there. They come in as a co-sponsor. We have Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee and Congressman Al Green and Dr. King's descendants and some James Weldon Johnson descendants and a world-renowned gospel singer coming. So there will be a big memorial service on the 19th of that Du Bois Festival week. And a lot of people will be coming to town, and there'll be some of the folks that we wanted to have that extra showing at the Mahiwi. There is also a play that Shakespeare and Company is helping put on, Knock Me a Kiss, and it's a play about Dr. Du Bois and his daughter. And it's a different side of Dr. Du Bois. We have been lifting him up as a scholar and an activist. And this is a side of him as a father, part of the Harlem Renaissance. And it's going to be a really great play on the 18th. So it's a very exciting week that we have in store. And I think that's it. I don't know if there are any questions, but I think that those are the high points.
Gwen, thank you very much. The select board will be represented on the 18th, on the 21st and 23rd. I'll be there. We'll talk to other members who may want to speak, but we will
on the 19th, the 19th, right? Too.
19th.
Yes.
Definitely. I will be there on the 19th, and we'll work it out with all the select board members. It might be nice for the 21st taping, if all of us were on stage and one of us spoke. So we'll work that out.
Good. I want us all to be really proud of the work of this select board and our community, and then all the activists and scholars that have worked on this for a really long time, because this is really going to be a monumental moment.
Yeah, and thank you, Gwendolyn, for the heavy lift for everyone involved in this. So it's just such a momentous opportunity, and thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Any questions of Gwen? Thank you again, Gwen. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. It's good to see you all.
You too. Licenses and permits. Steam Noodle Cafe LLC for an annual common vic at 286 Main Street. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to grant the annual common victualler license to Mr. and Mrs. Nziga of Steam Noodle Cafe LLC at 286 Main Street.
Second.
Any discussion? Someone has their hand up, so we will. Maybe a representative. Yeah, it's the representative. That's great. Go ahead. If you'd like to tell us a little bit about your plans, that would be wonderful.
Well, I had put that up in preparation, assuming there may be questions.
We'd love to hear a little bit about your plans.
Well, the initial phase will be takeout only through the conveniently located window. But once the larger renovations on the dining room are done, it will be a proper dine-in experience. We will be applying for a beer and wine liquor license, and we will be doing a kind of a sake bar, pending all the appropriate approvals, of course. And that's the main bullet points on what's going to be new.
Thank you. So I had a motion by Lee. Did I have a second by Ed?
Yes.
Any questions? Roll call vote. Garfield, welcome.
Thank you. Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
Ed?
Yes.
Lee?
Aye.
And I. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Okay. Karen Beckwith, the Great Barrington Fish and Game Association for 10 one-day liquor licenses for the following events. So we'll do these one at a time. Ice Fishing Derby, February 12th, 2022, with February 26th, 2022 as an alternate date if needed due to weather. And the time is actually going to be 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. Do I have a motion to approve?
Oops, sorry. I make a motion to approve the day liquor license for the following event to Karen Beckwith of Great Barrington Fish and Game for the Ice Fishing Derby on February 12th, 2022, with the alternative date of February 26th, 2022, from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Second. Karen, do you have anything you want to say? Any advertising, or are you happy with us just approving?
No, I'm happy with you just approving.
Thank you, Karen. Any discussion from the board? Any questions? Roll call. Garfield,
Aye.
Eric,
Aye.
Ed,
Yes.
Lee,
Aye.
and I. Next is a Super Bowl party, February 13th, 2022, from 3 p.m. to 10 p.m.
I make a motion to approve the one-day liquor license to Karen Beckwith of Great Barrington Fish and Game for the following event, a Super Bowl party on February 13th, 2022, from 3 p.m. to 10 p.m.
Second.
I hope the Super Bowl's over by 10. I can never stay awake that.
Neither can we.
It's any questions? Having
No.
none?
No,
Thank you, Karen. Roll call. Garfield,
Aye.
Eric,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
and I. Ham shoots Sundays beginning February 20th and ending April 10th, 2022, from noon to 6 p.m. Motion?
I make a motion to grant Karen Beckwith of the Great Barrington Fish and Game Association a liquor license for the following events: ham shoots on Sundays beginning February 20th and ending on April 10th, 2022, from 9 to 6 p.m.
noon.
No.
Oh, sorry. From, thank you, noon to 6 p.m. Thank you.
Second.
Any discussion?
I would love to know what a ham shoot is. I have no idea what that is.
Karen?
We just shoot targets, and the one closest to the bullseye wins a ham.
Simple enough. Thank you.
I always wondered that too. Thank you.
I had to ask once if they're actually shooting at the ham. Yeah.
Roll call vote. Garfield,
Aye.
Eric,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
and I. It's unanimous. Thank you, Karen, very much.
Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you all.
You're welcome. Lantern House Motel requesting an annual inholders license for 256 Stockbridge Road.
I make a motion.
Kate's on the line, so Kate, go ahead.
Hi, Attorney Kate McCormick, Merton Marcus. I'm here on behalf of GBM AM1 LLC for the Lantern House Motel. They're the new owners of the Lantern House Motel, and they're still looking to do the same that the old hotel has done, 14 rooms. Currently, there's a house and 14 rooms on the property. They're going to be doing some renovations and moving forward, getting those rooms back on the market. If I can answer any specific questions, let me know.
Thank you, Kate. Let's have a motion first.
I make a motion to grant an annual inholders license for Francisco Javier Arango of GBMAM1 LLC for the Lantern House Motel.
Second.
Any questions? Hearing none. Garfield,
Aye.
Eric,
Aye.
Ed,
Yeah.
Lee,
Aye.
and I. It's unanimous. Thank you, Kate.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jerry Taines of Extra Special Teas for an annual common victualler for 226 Pleasant Street. So I think I saw them here. Scott, do you want to say anything? A little promotion? Just unmute yourself, Scott, if you'd like to speak.
Hi, this is Cherry here.
Hi.
I left my laptop over in Housatonic tonight. So we're super excited to be opening our second extra specialties over in Housatonic. We are also excited to have our own commercial tea lab there where we'll be producing more of our own teas, and just really can't wait to get open. We employ young adults with special needs.
Thank you very much. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to grant an annual common victualler to Sherry Taines of Extra Specialties at 226 Pleasant Street.
Second.
Any questions or discussion? Roll call. Garfield?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
Ed?
Yes.
Lee?
Aye.
And aye, it's unanimous. Good luck to you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Virginia, your good work.
Before I forget, we had 7 panelists and 46 attendees. It's gone down a little bit, but that's where we were at the height. New business. Appoint treasurer collector Alicia Doolin as custodian of properties. Mark, do you want to lead us through this?
Sure. This is really just a housekeeping matter here. Karen Fink, our former treasurer collector, and then Sandy Larkin before her, served in this capacity. Just trying to find Alicia in the.
Yeah, I can get it. I'll get it.
So Alicia's planning on giving us an update this evening on our surplus properties, just a real brief update. But at this time, I just ask that you appoint Alicia to this position, and then she'll roll right into her update.
Okay, do I have a motion?
I make a motion to appoint Treasurer Collector Alicia Doolin as custodian of properties.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Garfield?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
Ed?
Yes.
Lee?
Aye.
And aye, it's unanimous. Go ahead, Alicia.
Hi, everyone. So I just wanted to give kind of a quick update on where we are with town-owned properties that have been foreclosed on. So currently we have 12 town-owned properties that we've foreclosed on. And back in December of 2019, Karen had come to the board for approval to auction six properties, and that process kind of stalled. You guys approved all. Well, she had, I think, 8, but you approved 6 of them. So I have that list, and I've contacted Sullivan Auctioneers, and I have a meeting set up in 2 weeks to meet with Mary Ann from Sullivan & Sullivan. And she says, I told her we have 6 currently, and she said, I sent her over a list, and she said she thinks we can hold an auction for these 6 properties in late March. So I'm hoping for late March to get all of those on auction, and it's just a good time to sell right now, any of these properties, because of the market right now. So there may be more coming in the future.
Any questions?
Do we know the state of disrepair or repair to these homes? And
some of them are just pieces of land. I think 3 of them are just pieces of land. And let's see, I do have notes on them. Hold on one second. So the ones that are not, that do have houses on them, there's, out of the 6, 2 of them have houses, and they are in need of renovation, but they're not in such disrepair that you couldn't live there and renovate them.
Would you tell me, Ashley, again, what happened to the other 6? You said there's 12. 6 went where, please? Or
6 is the number that the board approved back in December of 2019 that could be auctioned. So I'm just restarting that process of getting them actually auctioned. And then the other 6 haven't been brought before the board to auction yet, but I plan on doing that at some point soon.
All right. Is this open to the public, or can anyone
Yep, it gets advertised. It will be advertised for, I believe it's 2 weeks before the auction actually happens. It goes in the newspaper. It's open to anybody, unless you're a town employee or family.
So that begs the question I would like to know, and I don't know if it's the right forum or if I have to ask someone else, but I was wondering if this is something the Great Barrington Affordable Housing Trust Fund could vote bid on.
So I believe that these are ones that had been the 6 properties that will be auctioning first had been discussed at previous meetings. I wasn't in attendance because this was back in 2019 when Karen did this. And I think that these 6 properties were not on the list to keep for affordable housing. We do have some of those, and we do have a new foreclosure that just happened that would be, I spoke with Chris and Mark about maybe using for affordable housing, but these 6 properties were not on that list.
Okay, the ones that are on, can we get that information from the Affordable Housing Committee or to Fred Clark or?
Yeah, so can I give a more general answer? In the past, Affordable Housing Trust has asked us not to put some properties on auction, and then they control it and keep it. So it is in the pipeline to consider that. Ask us, and we do that.
Right, but when would we know? That I guess I don't know when I would have that, or we would have that information.
Well, the Affordable Housing Trust, it works through them, and they make the decision whether they are interested in the property. If they're not, then we auction it off.
Thank you.
Lee.
I guess Garfield kind of answered my question, so I am concerned and hopeful that at least a few of those could go in that direction of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. So thank you.
Any other questions?
I'd just like to add, we did hold back on moving both 40 Grove Street, which is or was in the Affordable Housing Trust hands, and then also a property on East Sheffield Road, because we had at that time a discussion about holding that property back for a potential dog park and or boat launch. So we will have this conversation publicly when we bring more properties forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Next on the agenda is a request from neighbors of Squaw Peak Road to discuss a potential street name change. Just to be clear, we will not vote on this tonight. If this is of interest to the board and the neighbors, we'll bring this forward, but tonight's a discussion. So we will start off. Mark, you want to go ahead with this?
Sure. Sorry about that. It looks like we just lost Ed.
No, we lost Ed? Well, I got Jeff going.
Okay, so yeah, I can get this conversation started. So a few months ago, we received a request from Mr. Rothenberg, who's on the line with us this evening. He's a resident of Squaw Peak Road, asking that the town consider a name change for that road. So in your packet this evening, we did send a letter out. We put a copy of it in there. We sent a letter out to, I believe, 18 homes on Squaw Peak Road, just letting everyone know that we'd be having this neighborhood meeting tonight. I don't expect the board will make any decisions tonight. It's really just the beginning of the conversation. So, Mr. Rothenberg, if you'd like to.
There's another person with their hand up, Jonathan Fertel. Is that someone I should promote, Mr. Rothenberg?
I mean, certainly any of our neighbors are.
Well, I'm going to let them speak. I'll let you go first, and then I'll recognize the neighbors.
Sounds good. Well, thank you, Mr. Bannon and members of the Select Board for adding this to your agenda tonight and for inviting me to speak. I really came to better appreciate in recent years that the word squaw is widely considered to be a derogatory and pejorative word, especially to members of the tribal community. We can see that as evidenced by the fact that the trustees of reservations recently changed the name of both the Squaw Peak and the Squaw Peak Trail here in Great Barrington. And also as recently as the end of 2020, 2021, the federal government prohibited the use of squaw in all federal lands and directed through the Department of the Interior that any federal lands or trails that currently contain the word squaw be renamed to something that is not considered to be offensive. So as a proud resident of Great Barrington and a homeowner on our street since 2013, it seemed that it was an important and reasonable time to align with what's happening in the world around us and to consider the name Squaw Peak as something that would be less offensive. To that end, I was in touch with the Stockbridge Munsee Band of Mohican Indians, which is the tribal community on whose historic land our community sits. And their Director of Cultural Affairs, Heather Brugel, wholeheartedly endorsed the concept of our changing the name of our street. So I'd like to close by saying that this is certainly not the easy road to take, changing the name of our street, changing all of our stationery and all the effort that would come along with that. But sometimes the right thing is not the easiest nor the most expedient thing. But I do objectively, as but one member of our community, believe that changing the name of our street to something less offensive, perhaps simply Peak Road, is the right thing to do at the right time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'm going to allow a few people to talk first. So Jonathan Fertel.
Yes, thank you very much. So first of all,
give us your name and address, please, for the record.
Jonathan Fertel, 6 Squaw Peak Road.
Thank you.
So first of all, I wanted to say that I appreciate the speech that Mr. Rothenberg just made. I and my wife are in agreement. The one addition that I would like to put on the agenda is that we currently do not have a street sign, and as a result, that's actually created some problems. So I think from a timing standpoint, the sooner we can come to an agreement and not replace something that would have to be replaced again may make sense. But I just wanted to throw out there that as a neighbor, we are in support.
Thank you very much. Okay, next would be Ruth Friedman.
Can you hear me? I've got.
We can.
Okay. My husband, Barry Wasserman, and I own 3 Squaw Peak Road. Our family has actually owned that house since 1987. We strongly support this initiative, so I'm very appreciative of you bringing it up. And I guess my question is to the board and to the town manager, if you could quickly outline what the process would be for changing the name. I assume you've done that before in town. If not, what the standards would be for coming up with a name, what needs to be done to register a new name and all that, and the extent to which it would affect, and would the town assist in changing deeds so our house is properly listed and all that.
Yeah, so what we want to do is first to hear from the neighbors, then we will outline a process at another meeting because we don't have the process yet. We wanted to hear from the neighbors, make the request formal, and then we will go forward with that. This does not happen very often. If I can remember correctly, I think I've done this once in my whole term, and I may be imagining that. So it's not something that we've done very often.
Understood. Thank you.
You're welcome. Natasha, and excuse me if I'm pronouncing that wrong.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
You are pronouncing it correctly. My full name is Natasha Dockery Levac. I live with my family at 2 Squaw Peak Road, right on the corner next to the sign that is no longer there. So I'm glad my neighbor brought that up. I just want to thank Jeff for his efforts, and I wanted to voice our support for the name change. And I know that this meeting, we're not going to be making any decisions about names, but I support the change to Peak Road.
Thank you very much. Mary Eastland.
Hey, I'm Mary Eastland, and I'm at 8 Squaw Peak Road. We've been here since the 70s. I heartily support this. Our suggestion for a name would be Rocky Hill Road because of all the rocks up here. The only thing I do not want to have is the name that they have changed the name to Squaw Peak to. I don't think we need to define any kind of virtuous woman or non-virtuous woman. I think we should just have a neutral name that does not describe any woman. So anyway, I'm very supportive of that. And if I can be of any of assistance, I'm here at 8 Squaw Peak. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Kimberly and Stephen Moore. Just unmute yourself.
Okay. We've been here since 1981. I guess we're too old to undergo changes. And, I wrote down the list of things that need to be done. I think the first man who spoke mentioned stationery, which seems relatively frivolous when you consider someone mentioned deeds, the census, our delivery system, insurance, doctors, dentists, hospital, passports, driver's license, Social Security, Medicare, contacts, email, car registrations, newspaper, wills, trusts, bank accounts, obviously stationery, warranties, Google Map. Who is going to incur these expenses for these changes, and who has the time to take this on when we're all busy? And it also would expose older people like ourselves to have to stand. We don't do things online usually. So to go to the Department of Motor Vehicles, to stand in line for passport renewal or change, to have to go through all this is a major, major headache. And the other thing I wish to say is, let's take the word squaw. This is not an American word. Is that correct? It originated with the Algonquin Indians, if I'm not mistaken. The original meaning of that word was not demeaning to women. In the 1950s, it became a slang word that meant vagina. Now, I don't find vagina offensive, but if men find it offensive and certain women find it offensive, that's fine, because we have 4 streets with the name Knob in Great Barrington. And knob is slang for penis in the British language. So where are we going to draw the line? Christian Hill should be out. Pope Street should be out. We're going to be so woke, we are going to be ahead of the game. But why now? Because is there a movement underfoot that looks like it's cool to be woke? Is that what we want to be? We got to show our wokeness. How about giving money as a town of Great Barrington to the Indian tribes? What about something that has more meaning? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Linda Josephs.
Linda Josephs. I live at 11 Squaw Peak. Been here almost 30 years. And I've actually been waiting for this to happen for the last 2 years. So I'm not surprised that it was either brought up by somebody on our road or someone who lives close by. So yeah, I know the Department of Interior has made all the changes, and there are Squaw Peaks, Squaw Creeks that have been changed to politically correct creek, which I don't think is great for us. I agree with Kimberly. I think it's going to be a nightmare for us to change everything. And I'm really, really concerned about that, especially today. I think the majority of people agree. I don't disagree. I doesn't bother me. A lot of people don't even know what the word Squaw Peak. I have to explain. I have to spell it to them. So I think it's just going to be a nightmare, and I'm selfishly afraid of that. But on the other hand, the way things are going, I don't see us not changing it.
Thank you very much. Any other person want to comment on this before? So We usually just allow someone to speak once, but always gets me in trouble when I allow twice. But go ahead, Jonathan Fertel, very quickly, please.
Oh, thank you. I just wanted to throw one thing in there because I know that there's some difference of opinion. And again, this is Jonathan Fertel from 6 Squaw Peak Road. One thought that I have, having spent much time in New York, where oftentimes there are dual names for a street. Potentially there is a way where they could both be effective street names, where one is the primary street name. So just wanted to throw that out there. And that might be an opportunity to have a dual name for the street for now to mitigate the future challenges.
Thank you very much. So what'll happen next, and Mark, you can help me with this, is we'll come back with an outline of the process, and then the select board will, I think it requires a public hearing, but we'll find that out. And once we know the process, the select board will discuss this and make a decision whether they're interested in moving forward with this. Any questions?
Just once more, thanks to the select board and thanks to my neighbors who took time to join tonight. Appreciate you all.
Thank you very much.
And if I could just add one thing,
yes, please.
We'll get a letter out to the residents, all 18, again, when we take this conversation up for continued talks.
Yes, thank you. Okay, next under previous business is a continued from January 18th, the short-term rental bylaw. So couple things I want to accomplish tonight is like to have Chris guide us through the purposes. He's come up, and I have not seen them, and he's come up with a recommendation, or not a recommendation really, just a talking points. And then there in our packet is a memo of a compromise, and I'd like to go through those. And I don't want to write this tonight. The last thing we need to do is write for 2 or 3 hours tonight a bylaw. I think what we do is if we can agree on concepts, which we weren't successful last time, but if we can, we'll have Chris come back with some wording that we can then discuss. So Chris, you want to start with, and I don't want this to go tonight a couple hours. I think we're either going to accomplish what we set out to do or not in a specified period of time. So Chris, you want to start with the purposes?
Sure. Thanks, Steve. Good evening, everybody. So what I tried to do was take the discussion from your last meeting about the purposes and look at the bulleted list that Lee had sent along to the board for tonight and try to bring those together. And, I'm just sort of throwing those out there now at this point for the board to consider. And maybe if we can agree on purposes with that would be a good thing. I can put it on screen. Maybe that'll be helpful for everybody.
Yes.
If I am able. Can everybody see that?
Yes, we can.
So this melds a few of, don't read it yet. Don't read it until I try to explain it. This melds a few things that you were talking about last time and a few of the aspects of the bylaws that it seemed like you were taking as possible examples, including Stockbridge and Lennox. So it begins citing the authority of the general laws, which allow towns to pass their own bylaws to regulate short-term rentals. That's an important kind of statement that we have the authority to do this as a town. Also in the first sentence is that statement, which you saw in some of the other samples, to balance private, neighborhood, and municipal interests. So I just think that is a good way to put it. Saw something similar in Lennox and Stockbridge laws. And including, and trying to put these 3 bullets in order of private, neighborhood, and municipal interests. Number 1, or bullet, first bullet, sort of a private interest. And we know this is important from people that we've gotten emails from and we've heard during meetings, planning board, housing committee, and select board. We know it's important for folks who live in town, maybe underemployed, people who may be retired, etc., to enable residents to earn extra money from their properties to better afford to live here, maintain their properties, and contribute to the community. So that's kind of a private interest. A neighborhood interest, community-wide, minimizing public health, public safety and health risks. I think no matter which version we've seen over these last few months, I think we can all agree on that. And then finally, I think, stick my neck out here a little bit, that we can agree that turning the housing stock into primarily or exclusively commercial businesses could be harmful to the overall housing stock. And so the last interest there is deterring commercial interests from buying housing to use primarily short-term rental businesses. So this does not touch on commercial uses in residential zones, which was an objection that we discussed last meeting. It doesn't distinguish between primary homes or secondary homes. These are, I think, purposes that are pretty straightforward and that we could agree on, and that we could actually write a bylaw to further these purposes. So put those out there for your discussion.
Let's hear some discussion from the select board.
Yeah, I'd like to say something.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, thank you, Chris, for doing that. Just to give a kind of a bit of background, how the Lennox bylaw ended up here. During the 5 months that I've been working on this, and since bringing this to the housing subcommittee and then to the planning board, I've done a lot of discovery and talked to many citizens and residents, local businesses, realtors, and have looked to communities for their guidance to see, what's worked and what hasn't worked. And Lennox is one that I've always returned to, and I have returned to recently, have talked to the town administrator and a member of the planning board. So with the points that I had asked to be included in tonight's agenda packet, I'm grateful that we're having this discussion, and if everyone could take a look at the points, and what was my hope was to go through along with the purposes that Chris has just mentioned, to see if there's some common ground that we could agree on. So I don't know if it pleases the board to go through those guidelines.
So what I said, Lee, was we're going to go over the purposes first, then we'll go over the points.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't have any problem with what was said, so.
Okay, that's perfect. Anyone else? Can we agree on these as purposes?
No objections.
So let me stick my neck out. And Eric, just to remind everyone, has recused himself. Do I have a motion to accept these as purposes for our short-term rental bylaw?
Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, I make a motion to accept these purposes for the general bylaw.
Second.
Any discussion?
Just from what Chris said, I'm assuming we're not defining residents as we did last time. Residents are people who live here.
Yeah. Well, we can't be putting the cart before the horse because we haven't talked about that. But I would assume you're correct.
Okay.
So a roll call. Garfield. Did I lose Garfield?
I was muted.
Okay, good. Thank you, Garfield. I just can't see you. Sorry. Ed?
Yes.
Lee?
Aye. Yes.
And aye. So it's unanimous. So let's go through the, I say bullet points are actually numbered points. They may have been bullet points at one point.
Oh, sure. Okay.
So
yes.
we'll let Chris take us through these.
Oh, okay.
Do you,
and
put you on screen?
Yes, please. And I think you had something you wanted to put up next to it or with it? Or am I mistaken?
I think it would probably, I don't know if I can share two documents at once. And I think for these purposes to explain them, it might be better just to put that up on its own.
Okay.
I'll highlight that word residence, by the way, just to make sure that we're clear on what that is for the next draft. Okay, so this is what Lee shared in the packet. Can everybody see this?
Yes, we can.
Lee, you can speak and just tell me where to drive.
Yeah, absolutely. So the big change really from the previous bylaw that was shared with the planning board and the select board and housing subcommittee is that there's no distinction between the primary and non-primary residences. So that's number 2. And so that's, quite a note to draw your attention to. Number 1, in terms of limiting the short-term rentals, an entire dwelling unit may be rented up to 90 days per calendar year by right.
So let's talk about one at a time, Lee, so that maybe.
Sure. I can explain where that came from.
Yeah, each one.
Yeah.
So the first one is the 90 days per calendar year. Let's discuss that.
Yeah. Can I just give you a sense of where that came from, that number?
Yeah, of course.
Sure. So looking at Lennox as a point of reference, they have their limits at 75 days and then 110 days with a special permit. And in talking to the town administrator, they used Tanglewood as a general reference point, and that's where they came from to the 75 days. So 10 weeks for the Tanglewood, generally the schedule for Tanglewood, and they came up to 75 days. So 90 days seemed to be a good split between those. We have a local precedent. And also looking at the average that short-term rentals charge per night, which is $347. If you figure that someone is allowed to or permitted to short-term rental an entire home for 90 days, that equals just over $30,000, $31,000. So I felt that this was enough to certainly pay for someone's mortgage if they have a second home, if it's a second homeowner, but also deter people from coming in primarily to make money off short-term rentals. So for me, it seemed like an easy across-the-board solution.
Discussion.
Yeah, I would probably raise that number. I don't have a problem with a limit. That seems pretty low.
What would you suggest, Ed?
I don't know, 120, 130. There's still, that's less than half the year. You have a lot of second homeowners who are only here 3-4 months or 5 months. So I'd make it available more.
Lee, go ahead.
Yeah. So Ed, I appreciate that suggestion. Again, with 90 days, we're hopefully trying to deter folks from actually coming in and primarily using housing stock in Great Barrington to short-term rental. And I think 90 days is plenty enough time for someone to regroup or recoup, the money that they might pay out as a mortgage. So I think it's a fair balance. And I think if you increase the days, you start getting into that kind of gray territory of people possibly coming in to primarily make money off this rather than just meeting their mortgage. So I appreciate that second homeowners want to make as much money as they can. But I also realize that if other than the 90 days, that they could be also using their houses for long-term rentals for residents. So for me, I think 90 days is a good compromise.
Well, it couldn't be long-term rentals for residents if it's not available for 90 days of short-term rentals.
I'm saying for the rest of the year. So if they're using 90 days and they want to use the 90 days to cover their mortgage, then that means the rest of their home is available for long-term rentals.
Nobody's going to rent for 7-8 months, 9 months.
I disagree, Ed. There's plenty of places that people are looking for homes for 5 weeks, 6 weeks, 3 months. So again, just thinking of the housing crisis with the long-term rentals and the fact that we have a shortage, that I think that this is a good compromise.
Do we go? I throw my
go ahead,
in as well. I agree with the 90 days. I didn't realize it until this year when I started getting into the short term and was an elected official. The house right next door to me does short term, and 3 months is about the length of the time that I've seen there, and the person that I know, the people that own the home, they don't seem to have an issue with that.
So I wonder if we have a board, as a board, can come up with some sort of compromise, because there's no magic number here. We don't actually, we have some theories on this. I think 90 is fine, but I'm willing to go up a little bit if someone's willing to come down and we just figure out a number. It can always be changed on the town meeting floor if we find a reason to. But I think we're moving in the right direction. So let's just talk about something that's we can all agree on.
Do we know on average how many days short-term rentals are rented for? Do we know if we're cutting it back or allowing more? Because there's a cost to the town for this also, for every day we.
Well, and I would, I would question that, because the short-term rentals, if you're saying that you're cutting back on that, people that,
I was asking cutting back.
No, but I'm saying that if we're limiting it to 90 days, you're saying that that's going to cost the town. And what I'm saying is that's not necessarily the truth.
Right. How is that true?
So, I think that argument, it doesn't really carry weight, because
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So I'm just saying that people, that want to stay in Great Barrington will stay in Great Barrington. People that want a short-term rental will short-term rental. So, we also have to think of the lodging establishments that are losing out because of the amount of short-term rentals. So
again, I was asking a question, which is, do we know how? We don't know. First of all, I've stayed in a short-term rental in another town. I couldn't have made the trip in a hotel. We would have needed 3 rooms. Would have been $600 a night. I'm not sure that you have a family coming here staying in a short-term rental. If we don't allow it, they're going to look for a town that does. But that wasn't my question. My question was, do we know currently, if we're picking this 90-day number, do we know what that means? Are we cutting it back? Are we allowing enough? Is that $30,000 you came up with enough to cover not just mortgage and other expenses, but the expenses of short-term rental, which are not insignificant?
So a couple things that I think Chris and Mark are going to come up with some of the answers, some of the data that we asked for. It's just too soon right now, so it's a good question. I again think that we have our theories of what number is good. We're only, you talked about 120, Lee talked about 90. Let's move on to the next one. But I would ask, in the spirit of compromise, once we get the data, that we come up with some number. We're not hundreds off. We're pretty close. So we both agree that there should be a limit. We've agreed to the purpose. So let's move on to number 2 and see which ones we agree on. Let's not sweat each one if we don't totally agree. We're pretty close on number 1. So.
Okay. So number 3, up to 2 bedrooms may be rented year-round, provided that the owner is present.
So let me just say number 2, Lee skipped, because I think we all agree.
Oh yeah, I said that first. So yes, so no distinction between primary and non-primary residences. So this speaks to some of the concerns that I've heard from realtors and from second homeowners, and with this non-distinction, that it kind of evens out the playing field, so to speak. And this is taken from the Lennox bylaw, which I was looking at. So I'm just wanted to highlight that.
So the reason I wanted you to bring that up is there are points that we do agree on, and I think we all agree on number 2.
Yes, so let me say, this was the biggest issue I had before. Every other objection I have or issue I have is like we just did. It's just working around the edges. So I appreciate that one a lot.
Okay, thank you.
Number 3.
Yeah, number 3, up to 2 bedrooms may be rented year-round, provided that the owner is present.
So not to get into a debate, I have a bunch of questions. I think if I could just throw them out and Chris can work with them.
Yeah, that's the idea of doing this.
Okay. So say I have a large house, not near other houses. Why are we limiting me to 2 rooms? If I've got an 8-bedroom house on a big piece of property, not near others, why? I'm not sure why we would limit it. And then the other question is, the owner is present. How are we going to define owner? Is it just me? Is it me or my spouse? If my spouse's name isn't on the deed, does that count? My adult children, my cousin who agrees to stay here and be with her. So the word owner might be a little too specific as opposed to some responsible on premises caretaker.
Okay.
I think owner is fine.
Yeah, I mean, okay.
I mean, owners and owners. The person's there, they're the owner. I don't understand what you mean by your cousin or whatever, or someone. They're not owners, Ed.
Right, but so
that's not an owner. You own your home, you're an owner.
I can explain
I have
that.
my name, I'm an owner.
I'm not
That's an owner.
I am not currently married. If I were to get married, my wife wouldn't be the owner of this house. Does that mean I have to physically be here rather than her if we're renting it out? Or my adult.
I'd like to speak to that actually. Yeah. These are just bullet points, but in terms of the owner, someone that's on the deed. So we're trying, what this is saying that it's the person that is on the deed. So whether it's the spouse, it's one person, but really this is kind of pointing to the fact that we don't want tenants to be counted as someone that can short-term rental year-round. So the person's name that is on the deed will be considered the owner, and that we're going to have a natural person that will be represented as the owner of the short-term rental. So again, we're not going to have LLCs, we're not going to have corporations, we're going to have someone that is actually a natural person on the deed. So that's what this speaks to. And this is to give residents that own their properties a chance to make enough money to live in this town. And it's allowing them up to 2 bedrooms to short-term rental while they are present. So that's a very, very important distinction. We don't want people going away and renting their house all year round for short-term rentals. So this is very different than an entire unit. This is when the owner is present.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Just about many of my comments here are about us micromanaging people and what they do in their homes, and substituting our judgment for everybody versus people's individual judgment for their homes. Which is why I'm saying if it's a huge house in the middle of nowhere, why 2 bedrooms, and if my wife's name isn't on the deed or my adult children who are living with me, why I can't be gone while we still have it. So this, again, I'm just throwing this out for Chris. I don't think we need to debate it now.
So could I speak to that actually?
Yeah, and then let's move on because I think we've heard, the arguments both ways. There may be a compromise in there that the owner or a relative of the owner, it may not be, but Lee, go ahead.
Yeah, speaking to your house in the middle of nowhere, Ed, what we're trying to discourage, or what I'm trying to discourage, and this is exemplified in this bylaw that I've taken from or looked at and referred to in Lennox, is that we don't want inns to be popping up in the middle of the countryside, and we don't want people to act like they are established lodging establishments. These are houses. So once you get into people, no matter where they are, whether it's in a neighborhood or in the middle of a mountain, we're trying to discourage people coming in and using them as these activities. So again, it's a nod to people that have invested in this community, that owns their house, that are on the deed. So that's what this speaks to.
And then, just one more word here, which is the word present. Do they have to be present 24/7? Do they have to be actually in the building anytime someone's there? Do they have to be there overnight? If I'm there during the day and then I go, and again, I keep saying I have no intention ever to short-term rental, but would I have to be here the whole time? Could I sleep somewhere else, or if I slept here and I was away during the day? It's concerning to use a word like that.
So my question, Ed, is, if you have a problem with this, just say it, because many bylaws have been written, then it says the owner, it's an owner occupied short-term rental. So if you have a problem with this, if you could just say it rather than question that, because either the owner is there during the short-term rental, during the tenancy, or they're not. So, having someone show up for a day to give them the keys and then disappear is not being present. We're actually talking about someone being there, present, occupied during that short-term rental. So, handing someone the keys and disappearing is not what we're talking about.
So let's move on to the next one and see if we can get a definition of
to answer the question, the objection I have is that we're micromanaging what people do in their homes. Since you asked me, that's the objection.
Let's see if we can come up with a definition of being present. and see if there's some case law.
May
or
I just,
some
may I
other
just say one thing, please?
Yes.
There are rules that govern us all that may seem general, Ed. So it's kind of, I think your point is moot because there are laws that are just laws that have to be abided by. And they aren't always specific. And sometimes they are, sometimes they're a little general. You have to read into them. But I don't see an issue.
Let's move on to number 4.
Okay, number 4, short-term rental occupancy limited to 2 persons per bedroom with a maximum of 10, whichever is fewer.
So again, I stayed at an Airbnb. I've only done that once. There were 2 bunk beds in a room. 4 children stayed there. That's part of what made it affordable. Again, I think we're not to allow the homeowner to use their judgment or what fits and what reasonably fits. If they try and cram too many people in there, they're going to get negative reviews. I don't know that we, again, what about a fold-out couch? Are those not allowed?
So my question here would be on number 4, and this is a rhetorical question. There's probably a building code for this.
Right.
So let's find out what that is. And I'm sure you can't put 10 people in a room that's the size of a closet. So Lee?
During my discovery process, I have talked to many realtors about some of the horrors that they've seen in short-term rentals. And one of the things that they have relayed to me is the fact that in many short-term rentals, they've seen the occupancy of these short-term rentals pushed way beyond what's safe. And what we're trying to discourage is, again, houses being used as hotels in neighborhoods. And by having a limit, you're controlling that. So you're not making a nuisance in the neighborhood. You're allowing it to happen, but you're not making party houses. So if people feel like they have to have more than 2 persons in the bedroom, maybe they should be looking at a hotel.
So if you have a room that has 4 beds in it, a large room in some house with 4 beds, or a sofa that folds out and sleeps 2. The other issue I have is 10 in all zones. Right, in my neighborhood, 10 would be a lot of people in a house, far too many, where the houses are really close to each other. We have areas where the houses are far apart. 10 people might not be a problem. Why don't we differentiate by zone, or in a commercial zone, it would be different.
I think if we do it by zone, it'll end up being a zoning bylaw, and we're not trying to do that.
Yeah.
I didn't know
a problem.
Okay, I didn't know it had been decided. We're trying not to do that.
Yes, we are.
Yes, we are.
I don't know if it's been decided or not.
Okay, right. I had not heard. That's the first time that's come up. The last time I asked, I was told we'd find out after we were done if this is likely to be zoning or general.
Well, and we're not done.
Okay.
But I know I thought the planning board had recommended it be a general bylaw. And
yes, we did.
So, Lee, go ahead.
Again, Ed, we're trying to think about some of the feedback we've received from neighborhoods, and once to have limits in neighborhoods and to be respectful of people that that have invested in this community and that don't expect to be living next to hotels and inns. I think to have a limit is a good compromise. So with the with this limit of 2 persons per bedroom for a maximum of 10, that respects the residents that actually live here full time that have invested in this community. So again, I have a question if, when you're looking at this, you seem to be favoring the part-time owners, and I'm trying to shift it back to the full-time owners and making a compromise. So I feel this is a very, very sound compromise.
This has nothing to do with whether you're part-time or full-time. In my neighborhood, in a lot of neighborhoods, 10 would be far too many. I absolutely agree. But in some areas, some houses, some neighborhoods, some zones, it wouldn't be too many. So it's not, doesn't matter whether the person who owns the house is there year round or not. The question is how much space is in the house. And again, I think we're telling people what to do with their homes in a way. I get what you're trying to do. I think this doesn't necessarily accomplish it. But in my neighborhood, 10 would be far too many. No matter how big the house is, because there'd be 10 people sitting in the backyard at night making noise when I'm 5 feet from my neighbor. But some areas that isn't a problem.
Yeah,
So I don't want to get into this in terms of, we're trying to keep this movement going, and I respect your comments, Ed, but again, what we're trying to, at least in what I have seen, is we're trying to avoid the big party houses. We're trying to avoid people that are renting out these for events to put as many people and make as much money as possible. We don't want these to be commercial ventures. We want these to be homes. So again, I think we're giving people the allowance and the ability to make money, but we don't want these to turn into party houses. So whether you have a big mansion or a small house, it says whichever is fewer. I think this is a nice compromise. It's able to be enforced. So if we have a limit across the board, then whether it's a big mansion or an apartment, I think this is a fair compromise.
We absolutely don't want party houses, although that's not on your list. That's one of the things I've added. You left off about parties and tents and outdoor music. But
this is the main points I want to
agree with you. We don't want party houses. What I'm saying is 10 is an arbitrary number and it's different in different areas.
Let's go on to number 5.
Okay, so number 5. Thank you very much, Ed. Number 5, if more than one dwelling unit exists on a single parcel, for example, ADU, the 90-day applies to the parcel, the limit apportioned among those dwelling units.
Any comment on that?
Number 6, only one dwelling may be used as a short-term rental on the parcel at a time.
So I guess, again, ask why. If one of them has 2 bedrooms, the other has 1 bedroom, you're dealing with 3 bedrooms. According to the earlier limits, why does it matter that it's 2 different structures?
Again, can I answer that, Steve?
Of course.
So again, we're trying to focus this on the people that live here, long-term residents and full-timers. And by putting these limitations on, again, you're not having someone that's going to come in looking to make as much money as possible from a parcel that has more than one unit on that. So it's just limiting, it's focusing what people are trying to do with the short-term rentals. It's giving them plenty of ability to make money. But again, limitations will prevent people from coming in and just trying to make money off this. And, again, we're trying to think of the reasons why people want to live here full time and just, have some kind of regulations that is a compromise. So that's the reason why and this is also something taken from Lennox. So it's not like we're doing something that has never been done. Many municipalities have used this point, and it's nothing that I've come up with. So again, Lennox has used this, and it's worked very well for them.
So again, whether you have an ADU or not has no bearing on whether you're full-time or part-time, which I also thought we weren't going to, that's not one of the purposes. But my question is, if you have a total of 3 bedrooms, why does it matter if it's in 2 units or 1 unit? I just don't see why we're, again, micromanaging that decision. That's all. So,
as far as I'm concerned, you've both made your points. Let's move on.
Okay, sure. Number 7, registration required. The registrant shall be the name of the natural person who is the property owner.
So I will tell you that I feel strongly that registration should be required, that the town needs to have a list, an organized list, that every business registers with the town, and this should be no different. So I would agree with that.
Number 8.
No, let's hear everyone. There may be other.
Oh, sorry.
So would I.
I don't get the final word.
Yeah, I agree with it as well.
Again, the state makes you register. You can't do it if you're not registered. But I think you're making people jump through a hoop. It's a small hoop, so that's fine.
Number 8.
Number 8, registration includes attesting to compliance with building, sanitary, zoning, or fire code requirements, laws, or regulations.
So my only fear here, and I have no idea, I don't know what this entails. So if we say this, will that require fire escapes, lighted signs, sprinkler systems? The way it's written in Lennox is actually a lot gentler than that. They say they want smoke detectors and fire extinguishers.
So could I clarify this actually, Steve? This is
Yeah.
just points to focus the conversation, Ed. So if you looked at the bylaw that I wrote in the previous version, that is defined. So we're talking about functional carbon monoxide detectors and smoke alarm. So again, this is kind of a way to focus the discussion, but it's not going to be how it's in the bylaw. So we are not talking about sprinklers. We're not talking about fire escapes. So just to answer that question.
Okay, so again, I'd like, I guess, Chris to talk to the building inspector just to make sure we're not doing something here that would trigger that.
Well, just to be clear, if the building code or fire code or any other state code requires something more than is in the local bylaw, it will be required. That something more will be required. You can't abrogate that.
Right. So is it, as long as we're not defining something in a way that then triggers that it wouldn't have been triggered that otherwise. And I don't know that that's true or possible. I'm just asking.
Okay.
I have another question. And it just may need an exemption of some sort. Attesting to compliance with building sanitary zoning. If you're a pre-existing non-conforming unit, you're not conforming to zoning, right? Does that mean you can't do short-term rental? Or do we need to say something specifically allowing pre-existing non-conforming units to continue
Chris,
to do?
can you answer that one?
No, I'll think about it.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, I mean, that probably zoning might not be correct here because it's not regulated. So pre-existing non-conforming units would not be working in this. So this would be, if this if this bylaw takes effect, it would be the date that it comes into effect. So anything not in compliant would have to fall in line with this.
What I'm saying if they have to attest that they're following all the zoning rules and they're not, for example, my house isn't, I'm too close to the property line, I can't attest to following all the zoning.
That's what I'm saying. It's an error on my part. Zoning should not be in this.
So we may take that word out.
So that'll be out. Yes, thanks for pointing that out. Should I go to number 9, Steve?
I think so.
Okay. Registration also includes attesting to the posting of instructions at the rental for recycling, waste disposal, parking, and locally available contact information.
Fine.
Number 10, annual inspection required, cost covered by the property owner.
So that I just have a question of who's doing the inspecting, what are they inspecting for, and can current staff handle it?
This may be a question when the building code changes. If it changes, then inspections may have to be required anyway for short-term rentals. So we'll have to have some language in there that refers to that possibility.
Yeah. Again, this is just to kind of focus that, and I think that the specifics can be worked out.
And I think it's a reasonable question that we find out from the building inspector a little more detail, but I think in theory, it's a good idea.
Yeah. Just to clarify the reasons why I made the note of cost covered by the property owner, because I didn't want the town or taxpayers to incur any additional expenses. And obviously I don't have the cost in front of me, but I just wanted to make a note that, whether it's a permit fee or how that would be worked out, that the property owner would be covering it, not the taxpayers.
Okay.
Number 11, inspection includes verification of functional smoke detectors and carbon monoxide alarms. So Ed, this speaks to what we were talking about on number 8.
Right,
So probably 8 and 11 can be merged together.
Yeah, again, this is just talking points.
No, I
so
understand.
absolutely, yeah.
I would add fire extinguishers for that.
Yep. Yeah.
Makes sense.
So number 12, tenants prohibited from operating short-term rentals, no short-term rental subleasing.
So we agree on that one, it sounds. I'm saying. So what we've done tonight, and it's only a short period of time, we've agreed on some things, we've disagreed on others, and we agreed a little bit on certain things, but we want more clarification. That's what I was hoping for tonight. Chris will come back, may not be the next meeting, with some more information and with more written, a bylaw that's written so that we can then discuss the actual bylaw. But I think we're getting there. We're agreeing on some things. we're not agreeing on others, but maybe we can compromise. And we also have to get more information. We have to get data, and we have to talk to the building inspector. And I think we've made progress tonight. We're not there yet, but I think we're getting there.
Yes. Yeah. I agree.
I'm a little confused on the process. Just is this now instead of all the proposals we've had before this? Because there's some things that we didn't mention tonight. Corporate event.
These were only bullet points. Chris will come back to us with some of those points in addition to these in one bylaw. And if there's things that were left out, we can talk about it. If there are things that were put in that shouldn't be, we'll talk about it. So no, these 12 points are not all that's going to be in the bylaw. You're correct.
Yeah, yeah.
These are the major points.
Yeah, exactly. This was just really to focus the discussion, Ed, so we could, pick at the issues that might be contentious, and some of the points in the previous bylaws will be worked into the next bylaw proposal.
Are there broad points? Sorry, I risk asking. Are there broad points we didn't cover tonight?
Do you want me? I can read the list really quickly.
Yeah, if you would like to, that'd be great.
If you can read the list and send it to me, that might be helpful. Okay. I can try to work them in.
Some of the earlier versions had a prohibition of corporate events. Of corporate-owned units participating. I think Stockbridge said no corporations except LLCs. And then the second one is meetings and corporate retreats and things like that. I believe the planning board's version said not in residential zones, but okay in other zones. Grandfathering if limits are imposed, so people who are already doing it are not penalized, since stopping people who already do it isn't the goal. Prohibition on affordable housing and income restricted housing, doing it. Events I got, and signs outside and no dumpsters. Should I type that and send it to you, or you got them?
I'd love if you could type it and send it to me.
Yeah, and those were included in the version I had as well. So I would like to speak to the grandfathering. I feel that, or I'd like to ask Chris to look into that, because I believe that because short-term rentals aren't regulated right now, that there wouldn't be an ability to allow for the grandfathering.
So let's get a legal opinion on that, or Chris's opinion, or Mark's.
For general bylaws, there is no such thing as pre-existing non-conforming. So it's like I always use the analogy of a dog license. It's a general bylaw. Whether you had a dog last year and the bylaw just went into place, you still need to register your dog, get the rabies shots. So zoning has more of a due process and component to it, and that's why there are those certain rights that are vested, we say, that you can be legally pre-existing non-conforming. Try to avoid the term grandfathering. But for general bylaws, that doesn't apply. And I think the points that you've discussed here tonight hew more to a general bylaw than a zoning. So I don't think creating nonconformities or so-called grandfathered short-term rentals will occur.
The planning board version had that. Was that
the planning board version suggested limits and made that provision, suggested a provision for applicability to certain units when they were registered with the Commonwealth. So they're just to paraphrase their rationale there in that bylaw, which was in your packet last meeting. Their rationale was if somebody came in and did a lot of property improvements and had bookings out for the next year, then the provisions within the planning board's proposal, not the provisions you discussed tonight, but the provisions in the planning board's proposal could be detrimental to people who had done that, made significant investments and had booked out for a while. It could really infringe on what they've done. I don't think you're dealing in the same with the same sorts of restrictions that the planning board had proposed. So I don't think you need that at this point.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Ed, do you have anything else?
No, I got the whole list.
Okay. So we will come back possibly at the next meeting. We could come back as soon as next Monday night when we're doing goals. We know the goals only take about an hour. So if we wanted to continue this discussion and do it in short pieces, which makes it easier and less painful, we may do that, but we'll see how far staff has to come back. And you'll see it, whether it's on the agenda or not. We'll decide on Wednesday and we'll let everyone know. That's okay.
Super.
Okay, so I know a couple of people had their hands up, and we're not ready to discuss this while we're discussing it. But during citizen speak, I will recognize the two people that had their hands up first, and there will be much opportunity to speak. But first, I wanted to get the board through this. So let's start with. I think we're up to citizen speak. So. Tony S. And remember, it's 3 minutes. State your name and address.
Hey, everybody, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Hi. Sorry. First, I'd like to apologize. I'm on a road trip, so I don't have any notes. I'm just kind of speaking as I go here. 354 North Plain Road, Tony Segala. I just want to touch on number one real quick, the 90-day limit. And my only concern, and I know we looked at Lennox, and I like Lennox, what they did up there, but the only difference I see with us and Lennox is we are a big summer community, but we pride ourselves on our ski community. I think by limiting us to saying, 90 days, it takes care of the summer, but what about Butternut? And I think we're forgetting about what a big part of that community they bring. They bring a lot of people to our town, and Great Barrington kind of perks up in the winter. And Lennox, on the other hand, shuts down in the winter. It's a very sleepy town in January and February, even on the holidays. They get a little bit, but not like Butternut. So I will say, I think we need to look a little closer at that. Just out of respect for the businesses, they get a lot of business that time of year, bringing those ski families in. And also, I don't think we should really, Butternut struggles really a lot as it is, trying to keep up. And, I feel like families might go to a different town and consider a different mountain if we're not as accepting to bring them in. So that's all I'm saying about that. And I hope that, also would like to say, I appreciate the compromise. I think we're moving in the right direction, and everyone's efforts is greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Next is someone near and dear to all of us, Eric Gabriel. Go ahead, Eric.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Eric Gabriel, 1052 Main Street, Housatonic. Just wanted to say, speaking for myself as a resident of Great Barrington, very happy to see all the debate and compromise and all the hard work that's going into this short-term rental thing. Definitely not a cut and dry situation we have here, and it makes me happy how the debates are going and the give and take is happening. So one thing I did want to mention, very happy that on the bullet point number 2, not taking any distinctions between the primary and non-primary residents. And then just personally, I'm concerned with the bylaw just because I feel that limiting property rights should always be a super majority for that thing. But other than, those are my 2 thoughts on that. But I really appreciate all the hard work everybody's doing, and look forward to hearing more debate. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Don Londoner.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
John Londoner, 9 Francis Avenue. Full disclosure, I run a short-term rental that is exactly what you guys are targeting. It is a second home that I purchased to specifically bring vacationers to the area. I think that 90 days is not very generous to people in my situation, people in Tony Segala's situation. Basically, that allows me to break even. So that doesn't, reflecting on my big investment that I made into the property, doesn't really sound like something I want to continue. And also, I would say that if you are someone in my situation who is running a full-time Airbnb, to only have it available for 90 days basically says that for the other 9 months out of the year, my house is uninhabited. And anybody who owns a home knows that the worst thing you can do for it is to leave it uninhabited. Nobody's checking in on it. Vermin come in. I'm subject to more theft. Things can go wrong. Pipes can freeze. It's just anybody who owns a house knows that to leave that house alone, especially for 9 months, is the worst thing to do for a house. Ed, I think you know the house. It's on the corner of Francis and Prospect. I put a lot of work into it. I think I've done a lot of justice to the community. And to leave that for 9 months and let it fall back into disrepair, I don't think that does the town a service. Certainly doesn't do me a service. So I think everybody sort of loses on that. And that's my comment.
Thank you very much. Eileen Mooney.
I had a question. On number 4, with a maximum of 10, and is it 10 people or 10 bedrooms? Something else.
Lee, go ahead. Just
10. Can you hear me?
yes.
It's 10. It's 10 people, Eileen. So it's 2 persons per bedroom with a maximum of 10 people, whichever is fewer. So 10 people maximum per short-term rental.
Thank you.
When that is written, assuming that the sentence stays somewhere in the proposed bylaw, somebody might put 10 people to clarify.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Eileen, this is just kind of talking points to focus the discussion. Absolutely, this will be clarified.
I know, but sometimes things get picked up inadvertently.
Yes, thank you.
Yes. Thanks, Eileen. Frederica Siegel.
Hi, thank you. Frederica Siegel, 27 Round Hill Road. I admire the effort that you're putting into this, and I admire the compromise and the collegiality. At a previous meeting, we are one of the gang of 56, also a subset of the 200. At a previous meeting, I thought I understood that there was going to be an effort to be made to do some digging into the data of each one of the 200 Airbnb short-term rentals. And you seem to have abandoned that effort. And I think it's an opportunity lost to move ahead with a bylaw that that's not data-based.
So just to explain, and I did say it, but I maybe passed over, the data just isn't all compiled yet. We haven't thrown that out. That will come to us.
All right. Well, I hope that you wait until you've gotten the data. There's many unique situations that your decision would be enhanced by waiting to understand. So,
we will.
Okay, that's very good. And thanks so much.
Thank you. Seeing no one else with their hand up, Garfield, I realize your hand up. We'll just do it under select board time if you're okay with that.
I am absolutely fine.
Okay. So let's go to select board time and we will start with Garfield.
Okay. I don't know if I can address the 90 day that one gentleman spoke of, or you want me to wait But that's what I wanted to speak about.
You can speak about that now. That's fine.
Well, when he said that sometimes in the winter, and sometimes butternut doesn't do well, etc. There's nothing that says that whoever has their short-term rental homes can't plan them around that time. So I don't know if that's a good argument that he had. If you have a short-term rental and you want to get in on the ski action, then you'll plan it around that. If you want to do it in the summer, then you'll do it then. I don't think that should matter as far as with 90 days. I think the 90 days are fine. You choose to use them when you want.
Thank you, Garfield. Eric, you're back.
So yes, back. I am all set though this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Ed?
Nothing.
Lee?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank everyone. This is a contentious issue and it hasn't been easy for any one of us. And I know it's been difficult for a lot of residents and second homeowners and realtors to watch the process. But I just want you to know that this is the discovery period. And in the end, we all want what's best for the community. So I just really want to thank everyone that's reached out and has offered their suggestions and comments. So
thank you. And I have nothing. Media time. And at that, unanimous consent, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.